Hello, everyone. My name is Lydia Martinez. I am one of the proud members of the Utah Presents Advisory Boards, and I am so delighted today to be here with Yaron, who is the CEO and creative director of one of our upcoming productions, Circa. So Yaron Lifschitz is a graduate of the University of New South Wales, the University of Queensland, and the National Institute of Dramatic Arts. He was the youngest ever director accepted into this really prestigious graduate director's course. And since graduating, he has directed over 60 productions, including large-scale events, opera, theater, physical theater, and of course, circus. Yaron, thank you so much for being here today. I'm delighted to speak with you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Talk to me a little bit about what it was that initially drew you to performance art.
I liked the energy. I liked the world. I liked the fact that there was this little room in which magic happened that had this bolt of electricity. I also think that most people who go on to creative careers, or many of us do so because we can't see or find the work that we love. And in some ways, I love theater, but I found plays boring. I just found people talking to each other, just not the right modality for the ecstatic communal experience that I thought the theater was crying out for and had been created to engender.
I love that that phrase that you use, that ecstatic, and that, talking about the connection between the audience, between the performers that comes from those physical performances. So talk to us then about how you gained that background in circus performance specifically.
Well, like most journeys in life, it's not straight. I went and studied how to stage plays. I mean, that was the path that was available to me. I'm not a singer, so I didn't have, opera. I'm not a dancer, so I didn't dance. I went and did plays, and I learned how to get characters to talk to each other with, objectives and super objectives. And then I studied at the National Institute, and I went and directed plays, and I realized that my play directing was never going to be a great thing. I found them as a genre, as a kind of medium, leaden, and I love words. So I used to get obsessed by the words and forget about the rest of the energy. I never understood how to make a play work. But I'd been working as an artist in residence in museums. I'd been dabbling in opera, dabbling in physical theater and event world. And it just struck me that there were more exciting things out there that maybe I could find. And so I sort of tepidly entered the world of circus and have been there for 20-something years now.
So talk to me about the differences between staging a play and staging a circus.
Well, I mean, a play, you have somebody who's put a lot of energy into writing something, and then you have to figure out how to make it live through the bodies, voices, personalities of a group of actors. In circus, you have a lot of the excitement and the life is already there. What you don't necessarily have is the meaning, the structure, the dramaturgy, the characters, if you want to go that way, the storytelling, whatever those other elements are. And as a theatre director coming to the circus, I, of course, thought I had all the tricks. I knew how to tell stories. I knew how to design sets. I understood classical dramaturgy. So I came in full of my own self-awareness. And of course, it was going to be a heroic rescuer, as we all like to imagine, that we're on some white horse rescuing some needy genre in distress. And of course, found that the more I did of the stuff that I knew how to do, the closer it cleaved to the sort of results that I'd already been getting, i.e. not very good ones. And so I went to explore, and I looked at a number of things, and there were many influences, one of which was the theoretical writings of William Forsythe when he was at Ballet Frankfurt, kind of really thinking about contemporary performance practice, but also a language, and treating circus like it was a language to be explored, unpacked, deconstructed, and then reconstructed into live theatre, rather than going via the way of theatre for circus. And I kept finding everything was sort of in double focus. You kind of knew what it was meant to mean, but it wasn't a very good version of that meaning. It wasn't great storytelling or character or politics or acting. And it was less good circus because you weren't doing all of the cool stuff as intensely. And I wanted to get rid of that kind of division, that bifurcation of the audience's focus, and instead find a way that the elements of meaning or insight or epiphany that was possible inside circus were born directly from the qualities of effort and the theatrical form, inner life of the circus that we were making.
So how do you go about casting a circus? Do you envision, first of all, what you're wanting and then go after cast members that meet those physical qualifications and capabilities? Or do you tailor your show based on your performers that work well together?
Look, a little from column A and a little from column B. We're an ensemble company, so I very rarely cast, only special projects, but I very rarely cast anything that's, specifically for a show. We allocate within the group. So there's a general type of performer. At our level, there's a fairly high bar of skills, but there's also an ability to embody those skills, have a performance sensibility. Our work is cognitively quite challenging. You need to be able to retain a lot of information. You need to have an element of creativity, of personality. There is also, of course, always that sort of X factor. What's the reason why one person sets your life alight, and another person with exactly the same qualities on paper leaves you cold or disinterested, and that is exactly right. There has to be a frisson, and there has to be an energy there. But then there are certain physical types and skill sets. So essentially in circus, we break things into bases, middles, and flyers. If you imagine three people standing on each other, you need somebody who's particularly strong at the bottom, somebody who's very capable and often your best acrobat to be able to adjust and negotiate the two, and then somebody who's smaller on the top. Now, circus work has been famous for putting small people on the bottom, for mixing up gender roles, for doing all sorts of things. But as a kind of basic text, if I have a group of 10, I'm going to want to make sure I've got at least 3 middles, 3 flyers, and three bases. We also work with specialty acts. So in circus, you may have some aerial acts, some hand balance, some juggling and manipulation. We don't do a lot of the juggling and manipulation, but I need a certain distribution of solo acts within everyone being a very good generalist acrobat.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
That's fascinating. So the Circa show Humans 2.0 is coming to Kingsbury Hall on October 25th. I'm going to pop information on where to find tickets in the chat here at the end. But the show is described as a symphony of acrobatics, sound, and light. So next level circus. It says 10 bodies appear in a flash of light. They move in harmony for a fleeting moment and then descend into a sinuous trance. Towers grow and decay, bodies leap and are caught, and physical limits are pushed to their extreme. So that is the description of the show, but tell us what the audience should expect when they come to this show.
It's a really tricky question, because when you read it, listening to, what's sort of well-written, I think, marketing copy, you get it, it doesn't necessarily put a very clear picture in your mind about what to see. And essentially, it's more about, I think, how an audience feels. The Humans 2.0 obviously is a kind of follow-up to an earlier piece we made called Humans, and they were both exploring how to embody acrobatics and how to humanize it through the body. They're really influenced by some history that I was studying of ballet, and how ballet evolved not as a performance art, but as a kind of courtly form to essentially establish a kind of codified way in which an aristocracy should move. And what it did was it removed the kind of folk elements, the contact with the ground, the weight, the sexuality, the breath content, and it sort of cut everything off at a certain part of the body and refined it, made it biomechanically very purified and codified. In a sense, it said, we are not folk, right? That was kind of its sort of message. And circus, it struck me, was doing a very similar thing. We were kind of biomechanically had all these very precise ways to get into position, to leap, to move, but we weren't really necessarily in connection with our essential humanness. So the process of making humans was to put us in contact, to get into the groove, to feel how acrobatics can move. Very simple exercises. Can you create a energy that transfers across two bodies? All sorts of things. We made Humans 1, and it was a very successful show, but it kind of the show was an afterthought to a lot of research, and I wanted to remake something from the ground up with new music, new lights, and so we made Humans 2.0. What I hope, therefore, the audience can expect is to feel something on the inside without necessarily registering it that much on the outside. I mean, yeah, they'll see fabulous acrobatics, they'll see amazing moments, they'll see pieces where 10 bodies cohere in kind of exquisitely unexpected ways and then break apart. They'll feel, sometimes they'll get to zoom in on a particular performer in solo, sometimes they'll see the stage awash with human bodies. All of that's well and good, but I think where the show really registers is in its kind of humanness in the body. And what I hope is that the audience moves along and the audience has a kind of empathy of breath and of connectivity to the artists.
Yeah, you talked about transference of energy between performers, and it sounds like you are also aiming for a transference of energy between the performers and the audience themselves.
Absolutely. I mean, I think if you imagine what the purpose of coming together in a theater is, you know how crazy inconvenient it is. We can sit at home with Netflix, in our loungewear, whatever we want to wear. We can order Uber Eats, we can sit there and watch. There's going to a theater that involves parking, babysitters, arranging, meeting people, weather, all that stuff is crazy inconvenient. It only makes sense if something happens in that room with all of those people together that is unrepeatable. And that thing is, I believe, a kind of empathetic moment where our breaths connect, where our kind of mirror neurons start to fire, where sort of very deep neurological biochemical systems kick in that connect us to each other as a species. And I think that's the essence of what we do. And Humans 2.0 is a sort of ecstatic incantation. It tries to sing into being this kind of humanness that happens. It's fun, it's playful, it's quirky, it's super physical. But at the end, those things are kind of means to a way to be in the space, to be together, and hopefully to be in the world.
Well, and that is why all of us should be enjoying live performance. It's something we missed out on so much fairly recently, and why it's so important, I think, to get back to the theater.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, Yaron, thank you so much for being here with me today. I really appreciate your time. For those of you that are looking for tickets to the Circa show, I've popped in the link here on Facebook, or you can go to the website utahpresents.org and purchase your tickets there. Again, Yaron, thank you so much for being here with me today, and stay tuned. We will be doing more interviews with performers and artists because we believe these stories are important. Thank you again.
Fabulous. Thanks so much for your time.